Hey guys, Pretzelman945 here, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is a type of list that I have actually never done before. One that I wanted to make for a while, but I just didn't have like the right volume of TV shows or like what I wanted to put on this list. I finally made it. It's one of the hardest lists I've ever had to make, but I finally made it, and it is my top 10 favorite TV show characters. Now, I'm planning to go all to one, not make this a multiple part video, just like go all the way down, which is not something I normally do, but I'm going to try and do it. So, at number 10, starting off really strong here, we have Light Yagami from Death Note. Um, so I love characters who are the main villain of the story. I think it's such an interesting trope to play off of, and like Light's like sense of cunning, um and just like his masterful wordplay and his planning is and his like in also his like inner monologues and just like how intelligent he is like extremely entertaining to watch. Like every single second between like the monologue between L and Light on screen is like super entertaining to watch. Like super duper entertaining. And just watching how masterful his and like his planning is. It causes for so many like twists in the show, and it's all concocted by his masterful planning and cunning. He's such a well-written main character. Um, and and also like the way the show ends, the way he dies for his beliefs is just like absolutely amazing. And like from a certain point of view, you could kind of understand what he's doing. Obviously, it's like extremely horrific and wrong, but like you can kind of understand where he's coming from, which is another amazing aspect to his character. So, overall, just like an absolutely fantastic character. Um, and definitely my favorite character in Death Note. Excuse me. And number 9 is Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. Um, so I have a lot of favorite characters from this show. In the earlier seasons, it was definitely Tyrion because I just thought that he was so incredibly funny. As the later scenes progressed, though, like Arya slowly became my favorite character because her journey is very different from any of the other characters, and I think it's so interesting to watch all the different ways that she becomes like an extremely independent young woman, and and ultimately like just the way she pays it off with like all the ways that she can fight and like using her many faces to finally kill all of her enemies is just like extremely satisfying to me. Um, and she's also really well acted, and I love her relationship with all the other characters. So overall, this is just um, I just love the culmination of everything that happens with Arya. And I love watching her grow throughout the entire show. At number 8 is Kreese. I have to take a look at something real quick, but he's my eighth favorite movie and he's my eighth favorite villain for movie and TV shows. Speaking of which, there's an updated list that is coming soon, by the way. Anyway, yes. Ironically, number 8 on both lists. Um, Kreese is just like an absolutely amazing character. He's such a menace. on screen, wherever he is, whether it's like his conniving nature or like the fact that he like genuine like with Kreese, what I find so interesting is like the way that he seems to be both like genuinely sincere and genuinely insincere at the same time. And what I mean by that is like he genuinely tends to like care about his students in like his own very twisted, demented way. And I think that's so fascinating to watch as he like builds these relationships and tries to like make sure that his students never fail at any cost. But at the same time, he can seem ingenuine because like you don't really know what he's feeling when he's like during his relationship with Johnny, whether he's like he says that he's playing along, but then he is constantly making power grabs, but then it seemed like he was actually like genuinely serious and like in a rough life when we find him at near the beginning of season two and he's like in the settlement or whatever. The like the cheap housing or whatever. And he was lying all along. So I think that that is very, very fascinating. Because that like dual nature to his character makes him like so ambiguous and well written, and also such a good villain too. Because of the way that those two qualities tend to like build up his relationships and with both his allies and his enemies. He literally treats it like a game of war. And that's such an interesting perspective that I think works so well with Kreese as the villain, which is ultimately why I like him better than Terry Silver as the villain. Plus, there's also more time to give him to set up. While I think Terry Silver is a good villain, actually a great villain. Terry Silver is a great villain. Um, I like Kreese better. And obviously he's on this list, so I love him as a TV show character. And number seven is Vegeta from both Z and Super. Counting both shows in one. Um, what I really love about um Vegeta is like when he's first introduced as a villain, he's not he's not the best villain that Dragon Ball Z has to offer, but he's definitely a good one. Very entertaining screen presence at the very least. And makes for a fantastic rival with Goku at that early point in the show. Um, and he also uh, he's also quite funny. Sorry, I was trying to think of what to say. Vegeta's very funny. Especially in Super. Um, like just his wittiness and his cockiness and like his constant like debates and rivalries with Goku is just like this hilarious ongoing dynamic that is super super funny. And like the reason that Vegeta is my favorite more than any other character is because like each time, like more than Goku, I feel like who just wants to get stronger for the sake of power's sake. Every time Vegeta wants to grow stronger, it like obviously it's very nuanced and multifaceted because every time that he wants to get stronger, obviously it's in part trying to surpass Goku, but it's in another other parts he has different motivations for wanting to do it. So um when he first like when he's first introduced in Z, he his motivation is essentially like to live up to his father's legacy and be remembered as one of the Saiyan and be one of the great Saiyan elites of the universe. And and to be honest, that works well enough when he's introduced as a villain because it's such an extremely motivating like entertaining motivation that it just fits with his already entertaining screen presence like screen presence in the show. So that aspect is very simple and it works. But like as the show progresses, his character becomes a lot deeper and like more multifaceted. Um so by the time of the um Cell Saga, he like um he's not really he's definitely by this point he can be called a member of the Z Fighters even if he is like still very independent. Um like by this time he has Trunks and Bulma, but that's not necessarily his motivation. This time his motivation is like a little bit more nuanced in the fact that like it's ultimately an issue of his pride. And what I think is so genius about this is it kind of builds on his previous thing about like living up to his father's legacy and like the pride of the Saiyans. But now it's a little bit deeper. It's his own personal pride. And every time that he gets defeated, we see him go through the extremely difficult process for him of having to realize that having to like basically swallow his pride every time and realize that he is not the most powerful. And I think that this is so well written, and it makes Vegeta and during the Cell Saga, it made Vegeta my favorite character. Um, and then eventually, this further develops into wanting to protect his family. Because he actually does grow to love them in his own strange way, even as like non-committal to his family as he is. He wants to protect them and make sure they're safe. Um, like he wants to he like his motivation is for Bulma and his son Trunks. And I think that they do this even better by the fact that by building the relationship between future Trunks and Vegeta. Because they're able to simultaneously develop both characters at the same time. And and then this also eventually further develops like at the end of Z, at the end and like near the end of the Majin Buu saga, like this kind of basically comes full circle where he basically like admits that Goku is the stronger Saiyan and Vegeta will never actually reach him, which is like the ultimate perfect like circle ending of development from him having to swallow his pride and admit that he was not the stronger Saiyan, and how he actually looks to Goku as being the pride of the Saiyans, which is how it actually develops a little bit into Super, is that while they're fighting together, like whenever one is on the brink of defeat, um, like they always cheer each other on with their monologues and things like that, and like like Vegeta is like even gives his power to Goku so Goku can defeat Jiren at the very end of the Tournament of Power. Um, so just like the complete like full circledness of Vegeta's development just makes him my absolute favorite Dragon Ball character. Like not even really close, to be honest. Um, and and honestly, like um, I root for Vegeta's like transformation moments more. Like when Vegeta became a Super Saiyan, I thought that was cooler than when Goku became a Super Saiyan. And um and yeah, I just like I vibe with his like arc of transformations more than Goku's as well. And also something I do like about Vegeta is like unlike several other like characters that were antagonists but then became like heroes essentially, like Tien and Piccolo. Um like Vegeta very much stays a villain for the most part. During the most like 90% of the Frieza arc, the Frieza saga, he is still very much a villain. Like very, very much so. And I think that like makes his screen presence even more entertaining as he's just like completely just wrecking Frieza forces. Um, so yeah, I absolutely love Vegeta. And you can clearly tell the quality jump. And it's probably only gonna get more detailed from here. So just buckle in. At number six, we have 11 from Stranger Things. Now, I have a lot of favorite characters, but I really had to like hunker down and think about I've said before that Eleven and Hopper were my favorite Stranger Things characters. I had to really like hunker down and think like what is it that I really like about both? I had to like analyze in my head like what is it that I really like about both? Which one do I like better for the purposes of this list? Ultimately, I chose 11 because like the way that she's introduced is so incredibly mysterious and is just tied with the wonderful mystery of what the heck is going on in season one. And also, just like the way that you watch Eleven's powers grow and also how her relationship builds and her romance builds with Mike and her relationship builds with all these other characters, especially Hopper, and like how she slowly like gains her intelligence and becomes basically an independent young woman by discovering like all these things about her backstory and things like that. um, it's just like it's absolutely wonderful character development. And the other thing is Elle is like the most badass character in the entire show. I am not going to mince words about that. She is by far the most badass character in the whole show. And she is so in freaking entertaining to watch. Um Her relationship with Hopper is probably my favorite because like that father-daughter relationship is developed so well, especially the like in season 3, which is my favorite season. Um like the way that like she like they have arguments even is so like realistic of a actual father-daughter relationship. And um I just think it's so well executed. Um, and then of course, like Elle's thing in season four, just like her relationship with every single character is so amazing. Um, it's just so entertaining to watch, and I just love every second of it. Like basically when it what it comes down to, this is less to say than Vegeta, but like I love Elle because I love watching her develop, powers develop, her intelligence develop, and how she matures, her relationships with a bunch of other characters, including with Vecna and the Mind Flare at like near the end of season 4. So all of that is just like completely like so well done. Um and number 5 is Alfred from The Last Kingdom. Now I knew Alfred was my favorite character from the show. Um, Even though that was still a little hard to pick because this show has like one of the best lineups of characters of any TV show that I've ever watched before. Um, so for that reason, it just like um that part was a little bit difficult. Um, However, I ultimately decided on Alfred because he literally is the backbone of the show. Like, Uhtred might be the main character, but like when you think about the overarching character that constantly moves the plot and character relationships along is easily Alfred. Um and one of the things that I like about Alfred first is the fact that he like he's a very wise king. Um and he is portrayed as such. He's portrayed as being a very wise king that takes reasonable, rational action and always tries to come to the most rational conclusions and always tends to deal with things in a very firm but but um like a very firm but like kingly manner. Um and like even when he's almost dying, like near the end of season 3, he is like he's just still at the complete like top of his game. Like he's just a badass in terms of his wording and talking about intense relationships. The relationship between Alfred and Uhtred throughout the entire show is absolutely it's kind of ridiculous, honestly. Like how much back and forthing they honestly do. Um, because like they constantly go from being like mortal enemies to like reconciled as like friends that have like oaths to each other. And the bond that they forge between these oaths is so strong that like ultimately like Alfred can't come to peace with Uhtred, but ultimately by his death he doesn't hate him at the same time. Um and like his screen presence just in general, like it kind of just like steals scenes. He just kind of like steals any scenes that he's in with his with his like just kind of kingly presence, and his dialogue is what's the word I'm looking for? It like the way he conversates is like just everything about him in a scene, like I guess what I'm trying to say, everything about him from like the way he talks to like his appearance, just like absolutely steals the scene every time. And he obviously like one of the key themes of The Last Kingdom is loyalty. Um, and Alfred is the perfect representation of that in the way that like he tries to negotiate agreements between them and how he shames Edward for having an affair and for not being loyal and faithful and how he's constantly faithful to his wife constantly. Um, that aspect is just like so like well um made. And then there's also the fact that Alfred is probably like the best acted character in the entire freaking show. Um, I mean, like hold on, I'm actually gonna look this up real quick, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, I just did some research. Apparently, the actor's name is David Dawson. I'm not familiar with the actor, but he does a very good job playing Alfred. So yeah, I love Alfred. He's such a fantastic character. And number four is Ahsoka from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The um, just to avoid confusion, the 2008 one, not the 2003 micro series. I also got water. It's amazing what you can do when you can pause the recording on this thing. Like, how can you do this in the camera app? It's such a handy feature. Anyway, that's completely off track. So, Ahsoka. Let's start with this. Um, wait, no, huh, I don't really know what to start with this. Um, 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 I don't know. I don't want to start with this. Give me just one second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a little thought to kind of collect my thoughts a little bit on Ahsoka. Um, because it's been a while since I've like talked about anything even remotely relating to why I like this show or the characters on this channel. Actually, even though it's my third favorite show of all time, um, I will get to talking about it in depth when I get to that part in the top 20 TV shows video. But okay, I am ready. I think. Okay, so to start with, in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is, I'll be completely honest, a little bit of a whiny brat. Like, just a little bit to where her screen presence can be slightly annoying. But like, but that's only for a very short while. That's only in like it's really only in like the first season, I would say, that she's like that. Because she is only an apprentice, and I love going through her journey with different masters to see that like how she has a lot to learn, and it's very interesting to see how she matures in the show by learning all these different aspects of like multiple masters that are very different from one another. So I think that aspect of her character is definitely my favorite. Um, like just watching how she matures in the show is like basically the entire journey of the show to her. And to eventually realize that like um she needed the Jedi more than the Jedi ended up needing her. the way that she finds this out is like, and the way that she leaves the order is such like a fantastically tragic like um ending to her character arc within the show. Um, sorry, just bring something. Um, um, and I also like how how this is kind of like masterfully like another key aspect of her character is her relationship to Anakin. And in the show they build like a very like their dynamic is hilarious and there's a lot of like super quippy lines um because Anakin ends up being the perfect teacher for Ahsoka even though he doesn't know it yet. But like um the way this pays off in Rebels, man, like it's easily one of the highlights of Rebels is like that interaction between Ahsoka and Anakin because it's like that one unresolved thing that's um that like you want to see resolved and it is and it's done in such a good way. Um like the way that they pay off that relationship is done so well. So, that's another positive aspect is definitely like how that relationship develops and how Anakin also helps Ahsoka mature throughout the course of the show. I think my other favorite aspect of Ahsoka's character is by far her relationship to Rex. Because during the course of the entire show, they literally become like the closest of friends possible and are basically inseparable, which leads to an absolutely amazing dynamic between the two of them that is like also paid off in such a really tragic way in season 7 when when she um sorry lose my train of thought again. Um when she basically has to go with Rex, like they're the only ones that end up surviving. Like it's just part of the masterful end of the Clone Wars and the show in general. Um, but like the way that their relationship develops as they become literally like the closest of friends is just very, very fun to watch. And once again, this is like with 11. I don't have as many things to say, but I just love the character. I can't really explain why all the way. Um, I just really love the character, and obviously the double lightsabers, the two lightsabers that that's so freaking cool, and I love like every single part of that. It's very very entertaining. Um, sorry, I was just looking at something. Um, at number three, top three. This is like the real really juicy stuff right here. Number three is Siri. Um, ever since I watched Witcher, um, Siri has always been my favorite character. And in fact, literally like purely based on how much I loved Siri in the show and the game, it's like ultimately like what first kind of gave the first like twinges of inspiration to even make this list at all was the fact I just like I knew Siri was like one of if not my favorite TV show characters ever. Um and number three, yeah, she is one of my absolute favorites. Um and now I shall explain why. Um So Siri, like, to begin with, like, has a very, like, quiet life that is uprooted by the destruction of Centria. Centria, not, I've been watching too much. I've been thinking about Blood Elves too much. It's Centria, not Zindria. That's the Elven one. Centra. Um, she's a very quiet life, if a little bit, like, restrictive, so to speak. Um, But what I think is so interesting about Siri is like from the very, very beginning, like she constantly is like going against the norm, which is something that I personally can very much relate to. Personality wise, we're not going to get into that, but all that much necessarily. But um, I can relate to that on a personal level, so that's why I connect with Siri quite a bit. Um, I also think that um like the way that she goes against the norm in almost every way is like the most core facet of her character, and they stick to that. Like they like put a pin in it and like this is series character, we're not gonna change it. So I think that in that aspect, Siri is extremely well written. Um, just based on that core aspect alone, that would have been enough to say that I really like her as a character. But there's more than that. Um, excuse me. Um, beyond that, what I also really like about Siri is the way that kind of similar to the first aspect, she is constantly following her own destiny. Whether that tends to align with the one that is presented before her, that doesn't really matter to her. Um, the only thing that matters necessarily is being able to complete her quest and like find Geralt of Rivia at first, and like um with her laying out her own destiny, it's made very clear one simple thing that she wants, and all she wants is like that sense of family. She misses her grandmother Calanthe so much, and her parents were douches, honestly. I mean, um, yeah, she didn't have great parents, so you know, raised by grandma, and then grandma tragically died in battle, and then home is ransacked. So, you know, um, I realize that is a very, very gross oversimplification of what happens. Um, and in season two, I also love her like journey to become a Witcher and how she like very much matures as a character. Um, in this aspect throughout the show. Um, and then tying into this, her relationship with Geralt, like that father-daughter aspect is like so freaking strong and cool. And I love how that relationship built with its like arguments and whatnot, and how they always, despite everything, remain like bonded to each other, not just by the chains of destiny, so to speak, or fate, but like by the fact that they genuinely care for each other as father and daughter. And I think that is amazing. Her relationship with Jennifer is also really great. But not as good in my opinion as Geralt's, the way that develops. Um, and also like seeing series independence, especially, that's another amazing aspect of series character is just like seeing how she manages to like survive on her own is like insane. Uh, so yeah, and Freya Allen, does such an amazing job as the actress for Siri. I love um Freya Allen. She's such a good actress for Siri. Um, I'm not gonna look her up this time because I really do like want to finish this video. I'm like salivating to get to the other two, including doing Siri here. Um, hmm. Um, so yeah, I think that about rounds it up for me with Siri. Just easily one of my favorites. Like she's a badass. I love watching her maturity, her independence, her her making her own destiny and like defiance of the norm, and her relationship with Gareth. Like all those things just make her such a fantastic character that I continually root for in every situation possible. And number two is Gus from Breaking Bad. Gus is my um I won't spoil it for the list, but he is he's one of my favorite villains of all time, easily. And I also clearly love him as a character. His screen presence literally steals every single scene. Giancarlo Esposito is one of my favorite actors for this very reason, along with he plays Moff Gideon too, but like more so Gus. Um, I'm like his cunning and manipulation make him even more entertaining, along with the fact that just like he can be completely heartless, but at the same time, just do it in the most professional business-like ways in the way that he conducts his business and gets revenge on his rivals. And um, like he- like I think this is most pertinently proven in the box cutter episode. I'm pretty sure that's in season four. Um, and I'm just like continually entertained by watching Gus's antics and eventually how like Walt and him turn out to be rivals and like they're constantly trying to outwit each other. Like the game of wits between those two is even more entertaining to watch. Um, so yeah. Um, And also just the way that he conducts everything in such a professional and business-like manner is like, and how he's cautious about who he does business with, like that's also so badass. Just like completely steals the scene. Everything about Gus completely steals the scene. Um, and then like the moment of his death is also extremely like dramatic and like proves that the master outwitter was finally eventually outwitted. It's a very ironic end. Um, and also the way that Gus uses manipulation, like his use of manipulation is another scene stealer because he's constantly manipulating other characters in the subtlest of ways to get what he wants, and it's so interesting and so fun to watch, honestly. Um, Honestly, I think that about wraps it up. I don't have as much to say, but I love everything about Gus. He steals every single scene that he is in. Um, and he is such a absolutely incredible character. I love Gus. Um, Before number one, I am going to take a little just gonna cut quick before doing number one for dramatic effect. I am very much aware that that was not dramatic in any way whatsoever. But for number one, Aaron from Attack on Titan. Um, and ultimately, like I rewatched Attack on Titan, um, like month, like around 2 months ago. I think somewhere between the month and a half and 2 month range. I think I rewatched Attack on Titan because I've been like in the process of oh, oops. I don't need my list right now, but I think that quick. I've been in the process of like getting into new animes, and part of that anime process, I rewatched Attack on Titan because I just love it and I wanted to rewatch it. It's my favorite TV show of all time. Um, I suppose that spoilers for this, but like whatever. Ultimately, like Siri, like the character of Siri first like brought the idea into my head, but Aaron was ultimately the inspiration for this entire list because as soon as I watched the show, I knew this was like either I knew it was probably Aaron was probably my favorite TV show character of all time and one of my favorite characters in any media ever. Um, because his character is so nuanced and complex. But we have time in this video, even though this recording is already at 48 minutes. But I did say I would power through and do it all in one video. So if it's over an hour, then it's over an hour. It won't be my longest video, but it will be over an hour. Most likely. We'll just have to see. Anyway, one last drink of water before I get into it. Um, so to begin with, when we are first introduced to Aaron, within the very first episode, we understand, um, like within the very first episode, just like example of how fucking good I'm not swearing much, but when it comes with AOT, like whatever, I don't care. Um, it's so fucking. When it comes to AOT, the very first episode, the writing is so fucking good that like immediately we get an insight into exactly like what his personality is and how that aspect of it is going to be used later in the show. Because immediately in this show, we see in the first two episodes, we see aspects of his determination, and his determination is by far his most entertaining quality by far. Um, because he is like because he's determined to join the Scouts by any means. That is like his lifelong goal, and like and he's given a motivation for this. Like his determination after the Titans kill his mom is he wants to kill every every single Titan itself. And um ultimately he is able to sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. Um and when this happens, at the end, is it first episode? Um yeah, I do think I'm like 90% sure this is the first episode where his mom dies. Um but like that whole aspect of things is like it's sorry, I've lost my train of thought like twice in span of 2 minutes. That's embarrassing. Um sorry, I'm just collecting my thoughts again. Um okay, I'm good. Um so like when he's given this need for revenge, this combined with his determination makes it absolutely like fearsome, like just awesome to watch. Like the way that like he speeds through his character development and um like it's just this driving force that constantly like moves the show along and like expert pacing, of course, and all that. Um, his relationship with Mikasa is very deep and emotional, and I love that part of it too. It's just like a minor detail I wanted to add. Um, and then of course we get to the point where he becomes a Titan. And for me, this is another genius spot in the writing because it essentially through not of Aaron's will, he is a hypocrite because he becomes the very thing that he wanted to seek out and just completely destroy in the fact that he gains his Titan powers. Um, but at the same time, he just steals himself up and then like uses that resolve to like continue killing other Titans. Like like he just absorbs that part of him, but like not in a way to where it's wasted. Like it's not wasted at all. Nothing in this shit is wasted at all. That's not what I'm saying. Um, but he absorbs that facet of himself and manages to use it in a way that continues to drive his character even further forward. Because then he can use the Titan powers and his power of determination to protect his friends from the military guys trying to shoot him and them. Um, so, um, so I feel like, after that, the next major thing we need to fast forward to is when he finally does join the Scouts, and like his personal goal has been accomplished, but he's not done yet. He like he wants to continually rise through the ranks and prove himself. You can tell by just watching any of the episodes where he like is like doing cadet training. Um but it's especially shown when he becomes a scout, like his arc of becoming uh, a scout. Um, and I said, I get thirsty after talking for almost an hour. Um, um, and particularly, I want to highlight the episode or the series episodes where they're being chased by the female Titan, and they are riding through the forest on the scouting expedition, and um, he is like sorry, I lost my train of thought again, and he is with the members of Levi Squad, and he comes to this critical impasse in his character. Whether does he choose to trust his teammates or only rely on himself? And the tragic outcome of the female Titan is the fact that it leads Aaron to believe that he basically can only rely on himself. And it's a very tragic realization of his character that basically sticks with him for the entirety of the rest of the show. And and it's like done in a very like sad way, but in a way that you know that it can't necessarily be fixed, which is the even more like um tragic aspect of it essentially. And it's done absolutely ingeniously. Excuse me. So that's like the next critical moment for Aaron's character. After that, when we get into season three, Aaron's character um doesn't necessarily receive as much development until we get to the whole like lore reveal of AOT, as I like to call it, of like all the stuff that's happened to the world, and the fact that there's actually outside countries other than just Parody Island, as they discover by unlocking the basement. Um, so um, but like the major thing that we understand from Aaron's character is like kind of where his determination comes from, and it is from his father because he sorry, I lost my train of thought again. I guess this is what happened, but when I this is the very reason why I don't record videos for this long, because after a while, like my brain, it like I just lose my train of thought constantly because like it's kind of hard for me to focus on doing something like this for this long. Um, but I'm doing it anyway because I love recording. Anyway, sorry, that was a really random side. I don't know why I talked about that. I have ADD, which is why it's hard for me to pay attention like that sometimes. Um, anyway, um, where was I? Right. So, we learn like where his determination necessarily comes from, and at the same time, it's from his father. And then, of course, we get to the controversial bit, which is Aaron in season four. Now, my personal opinion is that despite the fact that he basically becomes the villain of the show, goddamn, is he a good fucking villain. Like his when he like becomes an antagonist and like reveals his true feelings to Armin and Mikasa, it's like that is brutal. And it's so so well executed. Um in such a and well written in such a like brutally tragic way because like they one of the core like tenets of the show is like those three's constant like relationship and looking out for each other and things like that. Um, so like that aspect alone is just like incredibly tragic. To see. So for that very reason, um, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, in season four, I feel like Aaron is actually at his best. I personally enjoy Aaron the most in season four. His long hair looks badass. I love his long hair. And the idea behind the Jaegerists is extremely interesting. And it like follows in line with like basically him taking after his father completely. And like wanting but also like at the same time like wanting to like rid the entire world of all evil, which at first he sees as titans, but eventually he realizes that to be the outside world, which is such a fascinating like change in perspectives that I love to see. It's such brilliant writing. um and then of course like the the final like giant like bombshell that I feel like I want to drop is um the fact that his like the way that his character interacts with Zeke is like how he like cunningly planned the whole thing and then um like he pretends to go along and agree with his half brother and like Zeke like genuinely believes him. And then like and then he just like does the complete like other way trump card um because he actually is the founding titan and he knows it despite the fact that Zeke thinks so. Like he actually ends up being the founding titan. And um and just like the way that he's like, do you really think that I would go along with such a foolish, idiotic plan? Like in all of that, the central part of his character comes like punching through, like his determination to get rid of all evil. And despite the fact that he still has a sense of justice within that at the same time, it just makes him such a magnificent character. Freaking love it. Um, and then just like obviously like all the plot reveals and all that crazy stuff that happens at the end is just like insane. I won't go into that necessarily because it's not really relevant for the person discussing Eric as a character. Um, and there is one last thing that I really wanted to touch on about the development of Aaron's character, and that's like how his relationship with every other character like grades. And obviously relationships do improve as like he makes friends and things like that. But like at the same time, like he like his relationship with like almost every other character in the show, it essentially degrades because like they're either like disturbed by his actions or they think that he's too extreme or like they think why are you doing this, like stop, or they feel like betrayed by him, or the fact that they basically have to save their asses every time for one of his crazy plans, or the fact that he just like goes off on his own, like he just betrays the loyalty of everyone to achieve what he wants. And I think that's so interesting to watch those relationships degrade around him. Like first with like Connie and and like Gene and a bunch of the other characters who think he's like a fool and completely idiotic and way too extreme and dangerously extreme at times. Same goes for like Hanji and a couple other characters and Armin as well. And eventually, and then we get a little deeper, and we get to the point where like Commander Levi and a bunch of the other characters eventually just start to lose respect of him as a character and his actions. And um, and then like a level deeper than that, and they begin to feel betrayed by him. Basically, when he like takes over the government and announces the Jaegerists controlling the island, and like just completely betrays the trust of everyone. So there's like the multifaceted degrading layers, which is like it's so fucking good to writing, dude. Um, There's such a genius like character writing understanding by the writers of the show. And then finally we get to this last layer of degradation. Closer than Levi, closer than Connie, closer than Reiner, closer than Armin is his relationship to Mikasa, who have basically been like brother and sister type relationship. Um, and it eventually revealed, like like in the most shocking turn of events and one of the best scenes in the entire show is like the three of them together. Because not only does it break apart, like completely destroy one of the core dynamics of earlier seasons, which is like building up the relationship between the three of them as they survive and grow together. It completely destroys that. And um and like his relationship between Armin is completely destroyed by his just complete betrayal of trust, which is like that third layer thing. But it's like the deepest so with Armin. But that like extends an extra layer because we find out that like his entire like point of the entire show is he hates subservience. He hates obedience. He hates all of that. Like he wants to like bring it all down, all the authority, everything. And that's like his one of his core facets of his character, right? Which is like part of his determination, which is like punches through the story. Except this ultimately manifests in the fact that he hates Mikasa for this very reason. And it's such like a mind blowing scene. It's honestly like one of the best scenes in the whole show. Legit. Um and and like when he just says that, like everything is just destroyed. Like between like all of his morals by this point, except for like not going along with Zeke's euthanasia plan. Except for that, everything relating to his morals and his conscience relating to other people have been just completely compromised. He doesn't care about the lives of anyone other than the people on Paradis, and he still calls them his friends, despite the fact that he literally had completely betrayed their trust and like shattered Mikas's heart. And just at the end of it all, even though the series is even on there, which is like the most insane part to me. Anyway, um, and just seeing the complete evolution of his character, just like it easily, in my mind, makes Aaron the best TV show character of all time. Now, if you watched this entire video, I'm very thankful because this list was one of the hardest ones I've ever had to make, and to be honest, was definitely the list I've been most passionate about in quite a long time. Not that I haven't been about other lists, I was like especially passionate about this list and wanting to do this video correctly. So if you watched it all the way through this gargantuan um, monster of a video, then I thank you. You are appreciated. And more videos to come in the future. This is Pretzelman 945. Check it out for tonight. Because I'm kind of tired. Um, and I will see you guys later. Good night.